We have has come. Gas lines haven't been cut.
Good. All right, good evening, everyone. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Montclair Planning Board. Notice of this meeting is given by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of this building and by sending a copy to the newspaper designated by the township for notices. Electronic notice is also posted on the township website. We also are being broadcast live on Channel 34, and we are being streamed live and are available on demand on YouTube. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding, meaning that we, the board, have powers and procedures resembling a court of law, and we're obligated to objectively hear testimony and determine facts and draw conclusions in order to provide the basis for official action. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate for a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. First thing on our agenda this evening is our roll call.
Mr. Borshoff.
Present.
Mr. Brodock is excused. Mr. Campbell.
Is here.
Mr. Graham is excused. Mr. Ortiz.
Here.
Mr. Pierre.
Present.
Councilor Terry is excused. Miss Willis.
Here.
Chair Nguyen.
Here.
Mr. Jacobson.
Here.
Mr. Neiman.
Here.
And we have Board Attorney Arthur Neese and
Here.
Board Engineer Norberto Hernandez.
Here.
Okay.
All right, we have minutes from our April 15th meeting.
Are there any changes to the minutes?
I move their approval.
I actually think Carmel has some change.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Okay. We have two items of business on the agenda.
Very old business.
I'm going to flip the script here.
That's fair.
Since we have an application and we have an attorney and applicants here. So we're going to hear them first, and then we'll address the old business afterwards.
Old business followed by older business.
Very well said.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Richard Skolnick on behalf of the applicant 103 Grove LLC. We're happy to be back here for those of you who have stuck with us with some
my
good
error.
news on resolving some thorny development issues. The application concerns 103 Grove Street. It's identified on the tax maps as Block 4205, Lot 5. And just by way of background, we had hearings in January and February of 2022, and the board approved this application for an approximate 73,600 square foot self-storage facility, and a resolution from March of 2022. We were then back in front of the board in September of 2023 for an amended resolution. Throughout the proceedings, the board was concerned about permanent access to the site because there's no direct access from the subject parcel to Grove Street. Thankfully, we've been able to resolve these concerns. We've been able to secure a permanent access easement to the site from New Jersey Transit. We were able to secure 10 additional feet. That's going to be combined with the pre-existing 9.9 feet from our neighbor, I'll call it to the left, 105 Grove Street LLC, that's Lot 6. So taken together, my client now has 19.9 feet, and as Ms. Talley pointed out in her April 22nd review letter, that 19.9 feet of access exceeds the township's requirement of 18 feet for a two-way access. We have other technical changes, I'll call them, nothing of any major moment. We shifted some landscaping a little bit, no reduction in the landscaping, just a shift to accommodate an easement being given by my client to New Jersey Transit as part of that overall agreement. There's a change in the facade materials. On the right-hand side, Not something that's going to be real visible to the public, but that was also part of the agreement with New Jersey Transit. There's a lot that has to go on when you do construction near a train line, and this modification of the facade materials will reduce the time period that construction takes place and all of these activities that have to go on to make sure the train line stays safe during construction. So that's a second change. And then there's some minor changes to the internal configuration of the office space and a sprinkler room that's going to allow 2 more storage units, but an internal change. So I tried to lay all this out in my package. I have with me Andrew Inger to go over it in more detail to the extent you need it. We also have project engineer Sean Delaney from Petrie Engineering. So overall, it's really a real property rights sort of issue that thankfully, after 2+ years, we've been able to resolve, to get the permanent access to the site and for a width that exceeds the township standards. So that's what we have for you tonight, Chairman.
Just for the benefit of our new colleagues, I mean, so this was an application that came here 30 or 40 years ago?
30, feels like it. Feels like it. The billing has been, no, it feels like it.
That
was just a number of hearings that we had.
it is a really, I mean, it was the perspective of the board that it's a really creative use of a site that really has no higher purpose than being a storage site. I mean, it's a weird shaped property that really can't be anything but this, and we sort of, it came up and we loved it and we approved it, and then we found out.
I don't remember that at every moment.
Well,
but that's
I
okay.
mean, we had some questions, but I mean, at the end of the day, people really liked the idea. The only problem was it has this little itty bitty driveway, and then it's a bigger driveway, but it wasn't theirs, and they thought they had an easement from New Jersey Transit, except they didn't. And we had some real concerns about what happens if they build this wonderful storage facility, and then Transit comes along and closes off the half of the driveway because it's their property, and now they're down to a 10-foot or less driveway in a storage facility with trucks coming in, and that was no good. So we smacked Mr. Skolnick around pretty good and told him he had to go deal with Transit. And of course, the only thing harder than dealing with Transit is dealing with Transit when you have no choice but to deal with Transit, because everybody knows that they weren't going to get this unless they got the easement. But apparently through persistence and hard work, and I don't even want to know what else, here they are back.
Logic.
Here they are back with the easement. So I mean, it was approved the last time. We sent them back to the drawing board solely because of the driveway. And so unless, I just wanted to bring up that background, but my hope is that we don't need to do the whole thing again, because we did it the last time, and we can just thank them for their diligence. And
Well, you guys have looked at the plans, and when I'm saying you guys, I'm talking to the new guys. Do you have questions? Does any of the other board members have questions about any of the changes that have been made? Nothing really substantive, minor aesthetics, that sort of thing. Any questions about that?
The only thing I'd like just a little clarity on is it's still a relatively narrow driveway, especially for larger trucks. What's your plan for just making sure it operates safely?
Want to swear him in?
I don't know. Are you swear on that?
Sure.
Sir, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Speaking into that microphone, would you please state your full name and business affiliation for the record?
Andrew Anger from 103 Grove Street, or Storage Deluxe, the applicant. Yes, I actually even met Norberto for the first time in person on the site, and we walked a little closer, sorry. And we walked the site together. It is narrow at the beginning, only being 19.9, but it does open up significantly as you start driving further down and into the site, and then it's quite literally a fork in the road to 2 office buildings on the left and our potential site on the right. And we paid special attention to our truck turning and circulation when we first laid this out. back in the day. So we have a covered loading area that actually allows you to push your nose or the rear of your vehicle in further to allow you to make a bigger turn to safely access the facility. So it's been studied. Loading is paramount to self-storage and our use, and is critical that our customers have safe and clear access.
Okay.
So, our engineer, you've given us a very thorough report. Do you have issues that you need the applicant to address pursuant to your review?
Mr. Chairman, we don't really have any issues with respect to the changes. The only thing that, and we've discussed it on site, is that the front driveway apron itself be reconstructed in accordance with township standards. But that's a relatively minor issue that can
The
be worked
applicant's
out.
agreeable to that.
Yes.
Do you need the applicant to testify concerning any of the issues that you've raised in your report?
I think Mr. Inger's testimony with respect to access, the studies that were performed, addresses our comments. I think perhaps if they can testify a little bit more as to the other easements that were included as part of this application, because it was not just one sole benefiting the applicant. There's others as well, if I'm not mistaken.
There's one other. Janice, you want to help us out by?
Which one do you want? This is the presentation you sent me, or do you want the?
No, that's fine. I think, do you have what Andrew did? Because we'll just explain where the other easement, there's just the one. Andrew did that little colored, yes.
Yes.
easement presentation?
Yeah, that's the best thing too. Andrew will let you know what page is best to stop. So this is in your package. We did a little drawing to explain it. Andrew did. Does everybody have this in their package? Janice, we can do it with the old-fashioned hard copy, too.
Sure.
This one's best, probably.
Let's go to,
We need to mark exhibits.
This is in the file.
yeah, this is what we submitted.
You have this? This big one?
If you go to the last page, I think.
Big one. I have a
Okay,
big one.
it's
I don't
real
know how we got a
clear.
big one. We should mark exhibits, yeah.
Yeah, let me mark exhibits.
Oh, that's right, you guys go through them all.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
A1 is the application, A2 is the certification of taxes paid.
I like the
A3 is the proof of
not being
publication.
questioned part about
A4 is the affidavit
skipping
of
over
service.
stuff that we shouldn't be skipping.
A5 are the architectural drawings prepared by BWD Architecture, revised
We
through
did,
March
but there
28,
were changes, there were some
2024.
changes made. yeah.
A6 are the
We have
engineering drawings
very
prepared
lengthy
by
report
Petrie
from our
Engineering dated March,
engineer.
or revised March
That had
26,
10 different
2024.
sections.
A7 is the letter from the law offices of Richard Skolnick dated April 3rd, 2024 with all the attachments. A8 is the planning report dated April 4th, April 22nd, 2024. A9 is the report from Negri Engineering dated April 25th, 2024. And A10 is the easement presentation dated April 1st, 2024.
So that's what we're referring to now, is A10. And if you go to the last page, we've got color coding and everything.
So on the last page of A10, you can see colored in green the easement given to us by NJ Transit. That is a 198 square foot land area of easement used for vehicular and pedestrian access. It's 10 feet wide at Grove Street where it fronts, and it is contiguous with the 9.9 foot wide access easement running along Grove Street that we have received via a reciprocal easement from 105 Grove Street. So both of those easements in total add up to 19.9 feet of access along Grove Street. And as you see, it's sort of a shared driveway and begins to open up and get a little wider, as I mentioned before. And then as you reach the yellow, which is 30, 40 feet in off the off the sidewalk, I should say, that will be installed per Norberto's engineering letter, that's where our property commences. And a portion of that area in yellow is what we ended up giving New Jersey Transit in return as an 815 square foot easement.
How is it, I see there are 3 parking spaces parallel to the fence. How's that going to work with the first one if somebody doesn't park there, doesn't park properly within the confines of that space? I mean, that's speculative, I understand, but at least it's potentially a pinch point
Sure.
at that.
Yes, that could potentially be a pinch point. We have a manager on site operating our facility. I don't have the hours off the top of my head, but generally they're 8:30 to 5 p.m. And so it's part of our policy to have our managers out walking the property. So if there's ever any ongoings that prevent access, we would immediately address it with our, we have a strong relationship with our neighbor 105 Grove, and we would just have to alert them and address it as quickly as possible. And that's actually, my understanding is those 3 spots are used by the ownership of 105 Grove Street primarily, so they're quite privy to all of the access requirements of the property and pay special care and attention to it. So that.
In a prior application for this property, you testified about the hours that you estimated that the facility would be open. Is there going to be any change to that, or those hours are the same?
No change, hours are the same.
All right, you're satisfied? Are there any members of the public that have any questions concerning this application? Counselor, it looks like no members of the public are concerned. In fact, it looks like the board is pretty comfortable with the application also.
I'm actually pleased that they were able to negotiate a settlement of some merit.
Right.
That's good.
I mean,
As
the main
are we,
point,
yeah.
main pinch point for us has been this driveway, and certainly that easement addresses that.
Just a matter of housekeeping, Mr. Chairman.
Housekeeping.
You guys have had a chance to review Norberto's letter. Is there any issue that you can't comply with or won't comply with or anything like that?
There's no issues with compliance, but perhaps just a suggestion and to let the board know where the project stands. So if you recall, we actually were permitted to file our construction drawings and apply for a permit with our previous approval back in March. And so we've done that. We're very, very close. I think we could pay the permit fee and have it be issued tomorrow, albeit we need to come back, swap out a couple plan sheets and have it reviewed again. But our concern just on the concrete apron and adding the sidewalk, we just want to make sure that that doesn't hold up our initial construction. Typically, you don't do the BPP and concrete sidewalk work until the end of the application, just because the trucks coming in and out beat it up and so on and so forth. So we just wanted to ask that that be,
Condition of the CO issuance, getting that work done.
correct.
I don't have a problem with that.
No, that's, makes total sense.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so with that, I'd like to move that we approve the application.
And second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
All right,
Okay.
thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for getting us on early, Chairman.
And how the line even ended up that way.
Yeah. And it doesn't sit up.
I've got my savings.
Yeah, I think we can go through that's fine. So I don't think we need to repeat it. You sure? Yeah. So,
Moving right along.
yes.
Now for the good stuff.
Yes, now for the newer, older business. Newer, older business. Something like that. We have, excuse me, we have the Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment plan referral to us at our last meeting. We discussed and agreed that our new members would review what the current members had already stated in our last review, since there had not been any change in the plan between that prior submission and this current one. And our new members, along with Mr. Jacobson, have worked together to make an amendment to the our original letter to revise it to current, what I'll call current standards. And that has been circulated amongst the board, and everybody's had a chance to read it. Do we have questions? Do we need to discuss it?
Just by way of quick explanation, so what the intention of this document was to eliminate from the prior report everything that we said in the prior report was addressed. So the prior report, I think quite appropriately for then, but not now, said what had changed from the board's original report and what the revised plan had addressed. That's sort of yesterday's news, so all of the addressed stuff was taken out. We tried to give this report just a little bit of an introduction. I think it was appropriate to say from the outset that we're not opposed to significant development in Lackawanna, but that, here is a summary of our concerns, and then to state them. I made some changes to the wording to reflect just the discussions that we've had. As I was saying before we got started, I was trying to have everyone's voice in my head, and so we took a draft, then we discussed it among the subcommittee. Our new members made some really quite astute observations, which we tried to incorporate into the report before we circulated it to the larger group. And so what we've tried to do here is take all of the recommendations from the prior report, have it just reflect a little bit more of our discussion at the last meeting, plus the comments from our new members, and here it is for everybody's consideration.
So, is everybody good with how this revised version has turned out?
I'm great.
The one note I had was, it talks a bit about the economic impact, and it writes about the reports that were provided as though they hadn't happened yet, which they hadn't happened yet when we first discussed this, but they have happened. And so possibly just updating that to reflect that it was provided would be helpful, because there were two, and you can place your own value on which one, either one, for whatever reason, but those have come into being at this point.
Just remind me what, because I've got it open.
It's finding 6. It talks about how the town planner advised that that an economic impact report is being granted, but the board did not have the benefit of that report in the time of preparing these recommendations. Without it, the board cannot consider the revised plan's economic impact, et cetera, et cetera. Just about halfway down in the first paragraph.
Have we seen it?
Yeah, I have not seen it.
We may not have been handed it as members of the board, but it has been publicized.
It was on the website. We
Yeah.
had 2 different economic impact
Okay.
studies.
I'll edit that to reflect that reality. That
Okay.
and Mr. Borishoff caught a typo, which I will also fix. But
All right, well, if we're all good, I move that we, excuse me, send this on to the council as the board's response to this matter, and our recommendations, our guidance with respect to the redevelopment plan as they submitted it to us.
So is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll
Is there a
second it.
second?
Go ahead. No, I let the honor of seconding go to our new member.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
So I'll make those small edits that Mr. Neiman suggested and send it to you by the morning.
Oh, that's wonderful. Great, thank you.
And correct Mr. Borshaw's typo.
Not my type.
Correct the typo he found that I typed.
You did a lot more typing than I did for this, so I appreciate it.
All right. We don't have any committee reports that I'm aware of.
No?
So that brings us to payment of bills. I did hear from our CFO, who has reviewed and approved the billings as proper and correct.
Can we pay bills without Keith? I didn't know that was a thing.
Even though in his absence, he did email me this morning and indicated his review and approval. So that was good enough for me. So I will move that we accept the bills.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
All right, guys.
So
It's
just
5 minutes after 9.
Eight.
8
That's
minutes.
what time's up.
5 minutes after 8.
8.
So I just wanted to let everybody know, we have another meeting scheduled for Monday coming up. So
That's what this is.
That's what your agenda is. I'm going to revise the agenda because I could take the Lackawanna Plaza referral off of it. And the only thing on this agenda is a council referral of a new ordinance for small cell wireless facilities. So you've got the draft ordinance. As I know, we had a subcommittee meeting, the zoning subcommittee met, had some very good points. I worked with the township attorney to get a lot of those points into the revised ordinance. There's a memo, and we have 35 days to send comments back to the council on that ordinance. And my intent was to discuss it at the next meeting, next week, okay?
Okay.
After everybody's had a chance to review it.
Well, I think this is almost a record. At least, I think it's definitely a record for handling 2 matters.
Two in our tenure.
So I would move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you all for your time.
I was going to oppose that.